blaze.
I didn't get to go to one of her shows. It was a little before my time. What can you describe it all? What was it like to be at one of those shows with her doing her thing and you in the band? What was the show like?
A lot of fine women, a lot of LBGT, uh, a lot of guys that was just drawn to Betty. And we come in, we go on the stage, and here come the joints, just flying. I mean, all on the stage, people throwing joints and stuff, cause they think we, just like that. And so Betty ain't even paying any attention. Uh, we learn the show from A to B. I mean, from A to Z. Anything happen in between that, we gotta go back to A. That's how she is about live performing. She got the show in her head, and I remember we were in DC, and they stopped the show because the sound was only coming through the monitors. And when they stopped the show, she just booked off the stage. And then when they fixed them, we had to start at the top again. So she was, I'm not sure how she, most people, when you're gigging, you in the moment, you grooving. You don't matter. If something happens, it's time to fix it, you pick it up and get on with it, She wasn't musical like that. And she never wrote a song that didn't involve, I want to say it didn't involve sex. Not sex so much, or the idea of being sexual, or the idea of pleasing somebody, or somebody didn't please me. He was a big freak. Once I learned the music, and then I see the title. I didn't have to go to the lyrics. You just see the title, and there's a pattern. And to do 4 albums, all about that, And then the costumes. Her and LaBelle was on kind of the same thing for in costumes, except for Betty would wear some lingerie on the stage and high boots. But she taught me a lot. She really did.
Did you ever sense she was frustrated not being able to get more sales or more radio play or anything like that?
Very, very. I always talked about if she was a man, and I would say, I bet if you was a man, you probably wouldn't be where you at now, because what you are selling right now, people are buying, but society ain't ready for that. Slowly they got. When I was growing up watching black and white TV, you ain't see nobody kissing on TV, let alone what you see on TV now.
They would show married people in separate beds back then.
It was like it's crazy. So she was a little bit ahead of her time, but it wasn't fair. And I think that's what kind of upset her.
So you had mentioned you got to play with some other pretty cool bands of that time, though. Like, were you on bills with like Parliament or Funkadelic or the Ohio Players or?
All of them, we would play with uh, George Clinton, Funkadelic, Parliament, Bootsy, um, Gap Band, War. It would go on and on. We even did a thing in New York. I don't know what it was about with Roscoe Lee Brown and and uh, when we went to Ireland, not to Ireland, when we went to London, we played for what's her name? She's an actress, Red, something Red.
Vanessa
Sometimes she had
Redgrave?
right. We played. I knew it was something Red. We played for her. Um, we did some gigs that were great, and we did some gigs that were unexpected, um, like the one in London. We stayed there for two weeks every night. We were there for 2 weeks, and I say they must have got that confused.
Were they any more accepting of her presentation overseas than they were in America?
uh, when we played the jazz club, I don't know whether or not they looked or listened to some of her stuff to see, what she's about. If they just said, okay, this is Miles Davis' wife, let's book her in Ronnie Scott's. And it's like people, the first row was closer to me and you. And we had a song that started with a gong. I had to hit a gong. And the people, they were just sitting there like this. And they'd clap when we finished and stuff. And she running all around the stage and legs all up and, you know. But then they kept coming, so I don't know. When we were in London, we stayed at uh, Blackwell's. Chris Blackwell, we stayed at his. He had like a ranch, but all of the with the stalls for the horses and stuff, they were turned into one bedroom things like a hotel. And Palmer stayed in the house, in the what you call, I guess, the ranch house. And we would go in there and play with him for a while. And that was right around the time. That's when I got hip to sneaking Sally through the alley. Uh, and we would go hang out with Eddie Offord, which was strange because Eddie, after we met him, we would go to the pubs and we would drink the beer, that warm beer. And I fell in love with Guinness Stout. But Eddie would do the Lotus. And one night he was doing the Lotus, he got drunk and he got stuck. And we, and we had to pull his legs out. So, but we go to his apartment. Well, it was really like this building. And all the way up in the top, he had a studio. He had a full 24-track studio. And we go up there and jam. And it'd be like maybe 30, 40 people. And, reefer everywhere. Now, this is the time when they had the commercial on TV. They used to run talking about, if you get caught with drugs over there, you're in for the time of your life, right? So, hey, we sitting in there, I see these two people walking through, and I said, oh, what's it on his head? And they were them bobbies. And they walked through, man, and I was like, boy, we ain't going on no time soon. But they said something to him, and they left. London. I love London, Kensington Market especially. I went with one suitcase, came back with five. I was just buying stuff. I loved it.
Did did um did Betty ever indicate that she was, a fan of people like Jimi Hendrix and Sly Stone and that I mentioned as influences?
But a fan of Jimi Hendrix, be putting it lightly. Um, there was when that was a thing I read that said this girl came up to Miles and said, Miles, I want to have sex with you. And Miles said, many have. She said, so what make you different? And she said, cause your old lady fucking my old man. He said, who's your old man? And she said, Jimi Hendrix. So when Jimmy died, Jimmy, this girl, I forget her name, and Miles was at the funeral, but Miles didn't want to go, because that was that. And I asked Betty about a month ago. I said, Betty, what kind of man was Jimi Hendrix? And she said he was real gentle and stuff. Every time I talk to her, I ask her about somebody. Because she's been around everybody. I'm talking about from Yul Brynner to Jimi Hendrix, Miles Davis, and every jazz musician it is. Whenever we play, they want to come and see it from what's that guy's name? Drummer, Wiggins. Everybody, we go places, and she never really went out and listened to any music much. I don't know what she liked except for that dancing stuff.
Well, certainly the sound, seems to borrow a lot from Hendrix and Stone, Sly and stuff like that, which is the bedrock of funk rock, that stuff. So
Gonna take some, get some, got and the funkadelic, and I asked when I was sitting talking to George when at the show where I said, man, yeah, Betty, I said I just did make the show because it's Betty's birthday today, and he said, how old is she? I said, he said, is she still in Pittsburgh? I said, yeah. And he was saying, I said, I would call her, but it's like 11:30. When the show got over, I would have called her, but, it was kind of late. And when you think about the road that you travel, and you think about the people that you traveled it with, some you know, some you don't know, but you're all doing the same thing. You all got the same kind of purpose and mindset. And then somebody like Betty, gets hip to the music business, which is way to the left of the music. I did a lot of research on because I couldn't understand some things. I did a lot of research, and I found out that the record industry was basically found sort of kind of like all of these Eastern cats because they had oil and records were made from the sludge of oil. So you look at like Atlantic, Ahmed Gerdigan, and I met him with Betty. I'll tell you about some people I met with Betty, which is really funny. But that's how they were making, they would make the records. And so they were saying, well, let's do a record company and different things. Yeah, and so after you get your record played and everything, you got to get some money. Back then, payola was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Morris Levy. Morris Levy only distributor. Morris Levy would press 5,000 for you and 2,000 for him. So, when you look at the thing and you go get your money, and he said, no, this is what you made. Barry Gordy said he had to make a deal with the mafia to collect his money. from the Jewish guys. So once Betty was able to pull together the performance, the recording, and all this stuff, that business wall jumped up. You know, it's there's people that do that for business every day, promoters, uh, and record executives, and A&R men, and the art department, the graphic department. And once she goes through all of that, and then you got to get up on the stage. You really, and I don't think she had anybody that she really trusts but her brother, Chucky. And he didn't know the business. He was a mailman. He stopped doing that to help Betty, to be her road manager. So she had some challenges.
No doubt. The big machine, the big music industry machine. Just stepping back for a second, the Sly Stone thing I want to mention for viewers and listeners. You mentioned the Jimi Hendrix connection, which was an intimate one, but the Sly Stone connection also went through on her first record. Greg Errico produced it, who was Sly's drummer, and he's been on this show also. And of course, Larry, Graham, and Herschel Happiness from Grand Central Station. Those guys were playing on there, so there was a direct connection to Sly through that.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that Nasty Gal album? Once it was done and it was out there, and did you feel proud of it? Did you feel, like, did you have a favorite track, or how'd you feel about it?
I felt pretty good about the way we recorded it. That was the first time we ever recorded together. And my favorite song was I'm Just a Child, the one that Miles wrote. The ballad. That's the only time she's ever done a ballad. That
You and I?
Yeah, You and I. I like that. And Talk Trash to Me was happening too.
Yeah, that's some serious funk rock, that track.
I'm so old I can't even remember.
Did you guys do any cover songs when you went out and did shows, or only the album songs?
We had an intro for her, and we had a different intro when we were for the girls, and then we had another intro when we were just guys. I liked when the girls were with us, but I think finances. But then it became, it was pretty cool because Debbie Burrell, I haven't seen Debbie Burrell in 40 years, and her daughter found us on Facebook. And my man sitting here with me today, he got a message with some girl is looking for you, say, "Oh, mommy, to sing with y'all." And it just so happened that 2 weeks after that, she had to come down to Raleigh, North Carolina, and we met over in Raleigh, and that was great. But when Debbie left us, she was a munchkin in the Wiz, and then after that she did Ain't Misbehaving, and then she landed. She was one of the three girls out front in Dreamgirls.
Wow.
So, yeah, she's really good. I got pictures of her with some of everybody. So she did pretty good, and she's still doing pretty good. Her husband, she married a guy from what's the big booking agency in New York? Not ICM, but somebody. She married this big guy from the booking agency, the largest one in New York.
Wow.
And so now her name is Debbie Cleveland. But the other girls, one of them was singing with the voices of East Harlem. That was Elaine. And the other girl, I can't remember what she was doing.
So you had mentioned the that unreleased record, which eventually came out, Is It Love or Desire? I think it was like a couple decades before it saw light of day, right?
Yeah. Guy called me. Um, what's his name? Um, from Light in the Attic Records, and he was asking did I know where the masters and stuff might have gone, this and that, and he was saying he wanted to re-release the stuff, and pretty soon he did, and I got to do liner notes. He hooked me up with this guy, uh, Philip Philip Wayne, a writer out in L.A., and he did the liner notes on the re-release. But that wasn't
Oliver Wing. Yeah.
Ray Oliver Lane, but I did the liner notes on release of Nasty Gal, and then after that he did Love and Design.
So, Lover Desire, how much did that end up like you thought it might, or how much together was it back in the 70s when it was dropped?
Love Design.
Yeah, how much was it a complete record back in the 70s? Was it ready to go then, or did it
Oh
kind of
yeah,
get?
yeah, it was ready to go. It was a business thing. Um, I think Ireland Ireland was paying for it. They sent us to Bogalusa, Louisiana, to the studio in the country. We were there for at least 3 weeks. I might have been there 4. They had a lady come in, cook twice a day. Her and her daughter would come and do your laundry. And they had us a car and we drive to the studio. Dark as I don't know what out there. You go to the studio, do our thing, come back. And that was the first time I used the Overheim keyboards. And the studio was at our access 24 hours a day. That's how you pay for it. All of that's like a package. So, well, that was the second time Betty got mad at us because we wanted to cut some of our stuff. And we went up to the studio and stayed in the studio about 3 hours before it's time for her to come in. We were there all night long. And the guys were falling asleep on the board. But it was ready. It was ready, man. It hadn't been mixed and mastered when I left, but the money didn't come.
Are you playing the clavinet on that Lover Desire?
Uh, it's sort of like the clavinet and that Oberheim. There's an Oberheim keyboard in there. I'd never used it before. OBX or something like that.
So you had new toys.
She would only let me do clavinet, organ, and I don't think I ever did any keyboard, any piano. It was just clavinet and organ. We were pre-synthesized. Boy, we could have been funky then. we would have been right.
Yeah, well, you mentioned if she had come a little later with Prince, but also even, curious what it might have ended up like if George Clinton got a hold of her too and done something with her back in the prime.
I think George say, "Whoa, let me do something for myself." And that's how the Parlettes and the Brides of Frankenstein. You know what I'm saying? George kept his thing right in there. He kept everything that he did around his concept. The only person that he let go outside of that concept was Bootsy. But Bootsy was in that concept, but his thing was a little bit to the left too, because he had his own thing he was cultivating, and but he was still helping George. Now, I wanted to compare him and Prince, this is business wise, because Prince started to do the same thing with these different acts, with the time, with
Vanity.
yeah, the girls and all of that stuff. But his base went to the left after his first big notoriety, uh, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, they started saying, "Hey man, and they went to produce and got caught in a snowstorm down in Atlanta working with the SOS band, and that's what pissed him off, you know. And then he also said that they were giving away the sound.
The
The
Minneapolis
sound,
sound. Yeah.
it that's the sound is the most unique thing for a band or for an artist. You know, the song is one thing, but that sound, you know, uh, because Prince was like he was a free spirit, man. There's no way I couldn't even put on half the stuff he put on to come out on the stage. But then again, the music, you know, and once he had a unique sound. To give it away. George and them sound wasn't so unique, but the message and the feeling, they had that, they had that funk thing. They could do Tear the Roof Off the Sucker all night
And
because
sometimes
of
almost did.
the way it's in there,
Yeah.
you know.
It's
So,
hypnotic.
so
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so why do you think? Why did Betty end up sort of go into being reclusive and sort of hiding? And did she get fed up? Was it because I heard her father passed on? What happened?
Betty, actually, you know, I feel like family to Betty, and Betty feel like family to me. Like last night when I said, okay, I'll talk to you later. She said, okay, I love you. And I said, I love you. So I just don't, talk about certain things.
Well, it sounded to me like she was sort of frustrated with you talked about the whole music machine and the way things were, that maybe she couldn't really do what she wanted to. Um,
Yeah,
you know.
yes, because her her manager, I'm not sure how strong he was because his family, he was Italian, and his family was in the garbage business in New York, and he married a black girl, and he got the boot. So I'm not sure what he knew about music. I'm not sure he came from that background. You know, you want somebody that know this ain't cool or this is cool, or I might need to get the money up. Well, I always get the money up front, or I might need to do this or that. Uh, when he left, we had done a gig. It was around Christmas time. He got paid. On the way back, he decided to stop at the mall or something and get the present from his wife and his children and his daughter. He left all the money in the store in the briefcase. So that was kind of the beginning of his demise,
Mm.
you know. And it was almost, we were having fun. We were really having fun, you know. 5 years ago, I just got through listening to Larry Graham play with Sly Stone, and now we opening up for them. And they saying like, hey, yeah, I ain't got to put that stuff up there. Use our stuff. And I'm like, whoa, because number one, Larry Graham's the loudest band I ever heard in my life. Graham Central Station. Good gracious.
Their show is
But
incredible. I've seen him many times, and even nowadays, I mean, he still kicks butt.
I went to New York to see him about maybe 8 years ago. He was up there. Herschel wasn't with him, and the drummer wasn't with him, and the guitar player wasn't with him. But
He still gets it done.
he's one of the nicest guys, though, man. you know. And see, his kind of funk is more, well, he's the reason he does that is because he was playing in church with his mama, and he blah, 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 blah. But his funk is more like that, you know, that kind of, I'm in church funk, that holy funk, you know. Um, and George is straight ahead, but everything that Boosie learned from James Brown was brought to that extension of funk. James Brown was the man. He
Right.
was, hey, when I was in high school, we didn't know it was funk. Not until George came and called it funk. Yeah, we want the funk. So I said, oh, we don't have the funk, but we didn't know it. We wasn't here. So when Boosie left James Brown and came and laid his thing on there with George, and George was psychedelic to me. He was black psychedelic before Boosie kind of came and calmed it down.
Yeah.
But he still kept the concept. So then Prince has played some phenomenal funk stuff that it makes you wonder, okay, that's funk. This is funk. What the funk is going on? Because Prince's funk is a whole different thing. You
Yeah.
you can't you probably can't name 10 funk bands that you really think are funk bands.
10 funk bands? Are
You
you
probably could.
Yeah, well, I mean funk is it for me, so I would say Ohio Players, Parliament Funkadelic, The Time, Bootsy's Rubber Band, um, Cool in the Gang, old Cool in the Gang. That was one of the first
Yeah,
places that I heard funk as a label because they did I Can't Get Enough of That Funky Stuff before
right.
Tear the Roof Off.
But see, in my when I evaluated 1, 2, 3, maybe three of those bands that you named, they had one or two funky songs. But to me, they wasn't a funky band. Like Cool in the Gang. I want to say The Time because they had a concept with the mirror and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But What's My Jig was funky 7, 9, 11. And the first one I ever heard drove me crazy. Get up, real good
Yeah,
time.
get it up, yeah.
Good God, that was funky.
Yeah.
Now Jesse, guitar player, what's his name?
Jesse Johnson.
Jesse Johnson. He was right. And Terry and your boy was funky too. But see, like when they went with Janet Jackson, if then they produced her, okay, you can say they did one or two funky songs on it, but her album wasn't funky. So, or either you could call it stereo funk. To me, it wasn't as raw as Parliament Funkadelic and oh God, I can't think of nobody else who matches them in funk.
Well, no, they're like their own thing, but I would still consider bands like Graham Central Station and
Yeah,
Ohio
yeah.
Players as funk groups. Um,
But you're the expert.
uh, so I noticed, they years later they released this "Crashin' for Passion" record for Betty that had a lot more disco influence and different people playing on it. They credited Herbie Hancock and Alphonse Mouzon and people like that. That was way different from the other stuff that she did. And I was wondering too if like that kind of also made her want to just, back away.
Well, she went okay after we had the falling out. in Bogalusa, she did the Betty to me. Larry, Larry, Nikki, and not even Collins. I think Collins went to West Virginia. But I didn't know they was out in LA recording until they got back. She just didn't call me, you know. So I'm thinking, everything ain't nothing happening. Still ain't nothing happening. And Funk House had stopped gigging. This was 78. And my first daughter. And I was managing the nightclub. And I said, man, this ain't, this ain't hitting it. So I went to Charlotte, stayed down there for a while. And then that's when they called me, Nick and them called me at first. So after everything went down, I went to see James Brown in Roanoke, Virginia, 1981 or 82. I couldn't even get into the parking lot because it was full of ice. But the guy I was telling you about from Charlotte, his band in Charlotte is Sign of the Times. And I went to see him because he was playing trombone. So he gave me a pass because I'd never seen James Brown. And I'm backstage, and I hear people talking about, hey man, the show been canceled, and this and that. And I walked past this guy, and he walked past me, and we both turned around and called each other's name. So it was a friend of mine from Petersburg. And he said, man, I might be able to get you this keyboard gig with Blue Notes. They were playing, not the Blue Notes, Harold Melvin. He was playing the trumpet. Darryl and them was playing trumpet. I mean, playing the horn section, horn section. So he gave me a call, and he said, well, no, they found somebody. But look, man, we trying to get this deal, man. But we ain't got nobody to write, and do this and that. And he was in Elizabeth, New Jersey. I have a sister that's been in Plainfield, New Jersey, ever since she got out of college. And so I said, hey, man. So I went up there, and they were playing with Sugar Hill Records. Everything Sugar Hill Records horns, they did them all. Then they got the call that police looking for a horn section. And I'm like the Betty thing with the police. And so they ended up, and they got the gig, but only 3 of them went, 2 saxes and a trumpet. And at the same time that they were doing that, I was helping the guys record demos. We were all over New York with spec deals, at Melba Morris Park South Studio, at Sugar Hill Studio, at a studio up in Bear Mountain or somewhere, trying to get it together. And that's how I progressed in what I was doing. And so when the cats, they had had Betty Davis at the homecoming back in the 70s. And he said, hey man, you still let's do something on Betty. Let's try to do something on Betty. So I called Betty. Betty come down, we go pick her up, put her in the hotel. We were staying at the hotel. Everything we had, Atlantic was paying for it. Food, I'm like, I'm eating lobster for breakfast. And and so Betty came, we paying her bill, food, waiting to finish a track. We were at Unique Studio. We waiting to finish some tracks to start her tracks. Because we doing like this production thing with Atlantic. Betty, her view ain't right in her room. She wants to be moved to another room where she can see things. And, we like, man, Betty ain't even supposed to be here. So, but we never. She helped me. She wrote a couple of lines on a song that I did, "Your Red Hot Love," but we never got around to recording her because while we were waiting, they had dropped the album, and it wasn't happening. You know, it wasn't happening with how they wanted to be because they had us in a different. We were signed by Jason Flom, and but at that time, every black group or black artist had to go through Henry Allen for promotion and stuff. So we out here doing things and stuff, and they sitting back talking about, well, I know they'll be over here soon. You know, and by the time we got over there, it wasn't how we put a bunch of money in production and everything. And so that's how me and Betty reconnected after all those years.
And what year was that?
1982 or 84. We did the album in 80. I think the album dropped in 84. And then after that, not until I get a phone call from Phil Cox, you know, and he's saying like, I'm a film guy over here in London, and we like to do something on Betty, but we like to talk to the band. And that's what got us rolling, Funk House.
What year do you think that might have been, Fred?
What year did the movie come out?
2017.
It was 2015. 2015.
Yeah. So you guys, it was cool to see you guys together again in that film, and you guys sounded great in it. How'd you feel about how that project turned out?
First time I saw it, we were in Pittsburgh, and I really liked it because I spent a lot of time with Phil. When he came to shoot us, he shot us in Greensboro, but I brought him. He stayed in Greensboro almost a week, and I would go get him and bring him to Reedsville over to Betty's aunt's house. We go out in the country riding, looking for country scenes and stuff, and and then we do thing in the club. We shot that. Once I saw it all put together, it was really cool. It's I don't know how to say it, but it's there were a lot more things, I guess, because the one thing I didn't understand why my man wasn't in the film from Woodstock, the producer. But he came to the screening when Erykah Badu introduced us, and so everything it was pretty neat. Now, what I really liked was Tales from the Tour Bus.
Yeah, was that fun? That must have been a kick to see it animated and all that.
That was, man. I had people, friends of mine on Facebook. Oh man, you're a cartoon. I really liked it, and it was, that was the last thing. No, the last thing we did with Carlos was Canada. We went to Canada, and I used to get on Carlos a lot about habits and things, but after Betty thing stopped and everything, he never wanted to put his feet on the ground. He just kept moving, and so he went out to L.A. And then the next thing I know, I see him on a boat in a Disney thing, riding down the street. Riding down the stream with Julia Lennon. And I said, "Oh." And so then, because I didn't know what happened to him, where he went. And then when he came home, he was like he didn't have no money. And I used to get him. I said, man, you wrote 2 songs and played on an album of one of the Beatles sons that shipped gold, and you ain't got no money, So I don't know, man. And then so I used to get on him a lot about his social life, and when we went to Canada, the promoter came to when he was paying us everything. He said, "Hey, man, y'all don't need to bring Carlos out here on the road like that." And about 4 weeks later, he was dead.
Mm.
So, I had, started playing with him in the 70s. I'm thankful that we got to play again 40 years after, you know, and he was the bass player, Nicky and Larry. Man, we had put something together, man, and we can do it. I said, man, we just need to do this right here, cause that gigging thing, I ain't going back on the road like that. You know, uh, we were sounding good, but we couldn't handle the road like that. And then I tried to tell him, Betty ain't with us, man. You know, he goes to Betty Davis band. Don't nobody want to see that. I said, we lucky that we can follow the film, you know, and do the film. Uh, then some things started coming in for us, but it was like the film and us, and half of them couldn't afford the film and us. So
Mm.
then the film, and then now the film is on Amazon, you know. So it's no everybody can sit in their house and watch it.
Yeah.